The world trains people to look outward for permission, but God trains the chosen to look inward for confirmation. The power you carry does not need applause to function. It does not need approval to grow. It does not need validation to operate. It responds to faith, and faith responds to God. When God formed you, God did not consult fear. When God assigned your destiny, God did not negotiate with doubt. What God placed within you was designed to function in resistance, to thrive in pressure, and to reveal itself when conditions say it should be impossible. That is why your life has never been comfortable, and that is why you have survived what should have destroyed you. You have wondered why the pressure has been so intense, why the resistance has been so constant, why the battles have been so personal. It is because ordinary containers do not require extraordinary pressure. God only applies intense shaping to vessels that will carry uncommon power. What felt like delay was development. What felt like silence was instruction. What felt like rejection was protection. God was training your spirit to hold what is coming without breaking, without becoming arrogant, without losing alignment. The world would have rushed you, but God refined you. There is a power inside you that does not announce itself loudly at first. It whispers before it roars. It stretches before it strikes. It waits before it manifests. The world celebrates speed, but God honors precision. You are not designed to be fast. You are designed to be effective. You are not designed to impress people. You are designed to shift atmospheres. You are not designed to fit systems. You are designed to expose them. That is why you never felt fully comfortable where everyone else felt at home. Your discomfort was not a weakness. It was evidence of your difference. God did not give you a power that blends in. God gave you a power that disrupts stagnation. When you enter a room, something unseen begins to rearrange itself. When you speak with faith, resistance weakens. When you stand firm, confusion loses authority. You may not have recognized it yet, but people feel something when they are around you. Some are drawn without knowing why. Others resist without understanding their reaction. It is not about your personality. It is about the presence God has cultivated within you through obedience, endurance, and surrender. The world has never seen this power before because it does not operate by worldly patterns. It does not follow trends. It does not bow to systems built on fear. It does not function on manipulation or force. It moves through alignment, obedience, and trust in God. That is why those who try to imitate it fail. This power cannot be copied because it was custom designed. God does not mass produce destiny. God crafts it personally, intentionally, and uniquely. You may have thought that your struggles disqualified you, but they qualified you. You may have believed your broken seasons weakened you, but they strengthened you. Every tear you cried in secret watered the ground of your calling. Every time you chose faith when logic failed, something in the unseen responded. God was not watching you to judge you. God was watching you to prepare you. Heaven was taking notes while the world looked away. There is a reason you could not quit, even when you wanted to. There is a reason you kept moving, even when you were tired. There is a reason you kept believing, even when evidence said otherwise. That reason is the power God placed inside you, refusing to die. Divine assignments do not dissolve under pressure. They activate, they awaken, they push back. And the more resistance you face, the more that power learns how to move through you with authority. God did not give you power to dominate people. God gave you power to liberate truth. God did not give you power to be admired. God gave you power to transform environments. God did not give you power to escape hardship. God gave you power to outlast it. That is why your life has been a training ground. You were being taught how to carry weight without collapsing, how to remain gentle without becoming weak, how to stay humble without shrinking. The world has never seen this power because it does not come with noise first. It comes with depth. It does not seek attention. It attracts alignment. It does not announce itself. It reveals itself over time. People who rush will miss it. People who mock will misunderstand it. People who judge by appearances will underestimate it. But when it is fully released, there will be no confusion about its source, because no human explanation will be sufficient. You are standing at the edge of awareness. Something in you already knows this truth. That is why these words are not foreign to your spirit. They are confirming what God has been whispering in your quiet moments. You are not awakening to something new. You are remembering what was always there. God is not adding power to you. God is removing the doubt that kept you from accessing it. The world taught you to fear your own depth, to minimize your intensity, to soften your conviction. God is calling you to stand fully present, fully aligned, fully awake. Not aggressive, not arrogant, not reckless, but unmovable. When God anchors a person, storms become irrelevant. Waves can rise, winds can howl, opposition can gather, but what God has established cannot be uprooted. There is a power in you that reshapes failure into instruction. When you fall, you do not fall apart, you fall forward. When you lose, you gain insight. When doors close, discernment sharpens. God has wired you to extract wisdom from pain and strength from pressure. That is not normal. That is divine engineering. The world breaks under stress, but you adapt, evolve, and rise with greater clarity. You were never meant to live small. You were meant to live aligned. Smallness comes from fear. Alignment comes from trust. When you align with God, you stop negotiating with insecurity. You stop apologizing for conviction. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop explaining what God already approved. Alignment activates authority, and authority silences unnecessary battles. This power does not demand recognition. It commands results. It does not compete. It completes assignments. It does not rush. It arrives on time. God's timing is not delayed, it is deliberate. What you thought was taking too long was actually being fortified. God was strengthening the foundation so the manifestation would not collapse under its own weight. The world has never seen this power because it refuses to be defined by success or failure. It is defined by obedience. When you obey God, outcomes become secondary. Faithfulness becomes primary. And when faithfulness is established, results follow naturally, effortlessly, undeniably. The world chases outcomes. You were trained to honor process. There is a quiet authority growing inside you. It does not need to shout. It does not need to prove itself. It simply stands and things shift. Confusion loses ground. Fear retreats. Clarity rises. This is the authority that comes from walking with God through uncertainty and choosing trust anyway. This is not theoretical faith, this is lived faith. You are not late, you are not behind, you are not overlooked, you are positioned. God does not rush what God protects. God does not expose what God is still forming. The delay you resented was the shield you needed. The isolation you questioned was the classroom you required. The silence you feared was the space where your discernment matured. This power is not activated by emotion. It is activated by alignment. When you stop striving and start trusting, when you stop forcing and start flowing, when you stop asking people and start listening to God, something unlocks. Not suddenly, but steadily. Not explosively, but deeply. And once it is active, it cannot be reversed. You have been prepared to walk into rooms that will test your humility and your courage at the same time. Rooms where applause and opposition exist together. Rooms where clarity is rare and pressure is constant. God has trained you not to be intoxicated by praise or paralyzed by criticism. But balance is rare. And that rarity is part of the power. The world has never seen this power because it is not loud faith. It is rooted faith. It is not borrowed language. It is earned conviction. It is not motivational excitement. It is settled confidence. You are not moved easily because you have been anchored deeply. God does not build towers on sand, and God does not place heavy assignments on shallow foundations. Every time you chose integrity when compromise was easier, the power grew. Every time you forgave when bitterness felt justified, the power matured. Every time you waited when impatience screamed, the power strengthened. These were not small moments. They were construction points. You were being built from the inside out. The world celebrates talent, but God prioritizes character. Talent can open doors, but character determines how long you stay and what you transform once you enter. God entrusted you with a power that cannot be separated from integrity. That is why shortcuts never worked for you. That is why manipulation felt wrong. That is why you always felt uneasy when things came too easily. You are not here to replicate what already exists. You are here to introduce what has been missing. The power inside you recognizes gaps, not just opportunities. It senses needs others overlook. It responds to injustices others normalize. That sensitivity. Thank you is not weakness, it is awareness. God sharpened your perception so your impact would be precise. Do not despise your sensitivity. Do not suppress your discernment. Do not mute your conviction. These are not flaws to fix. They are tools to steward. The world may call you intense, but God calls you entrusted. The world may call you different, but God calls you appointed. This power does not manifest through force. It manifests through consistency. Day by day, decision by decision, alignment by alignment. There will be moments when it feels invisible, but invisibility is not absence. Roots grow underground before branches appear above. God often hides what is most valuable until it is unbreakable. You are not meant to convince everyone. You are meant to move with clarity. When God speaks through you, those who are aligned will recognize it instantly, and those who are not will resist it instinctively. Both reactions confirm the same truth. Something real is present. The world has never seen this power because it does not rely on majority agreement. It functions even when misunderstood. It advances even when unsupported. It remains steady even when isolated. God trained you to be okay with being alone so you would never confuse popularity with purpose. There will come a moment when you realize the struggle was never about survival, it was about revelation. God was revealing you to you, showing you what you could carry, what you could endure, what you could become. When that realization settles, fear loses its voice, doubt loses its authority, hesitation loses its grip. You are not waiting for permission, you are waiting for alignment. And alignment is happening now. Internally, quietly, powerfully. The more you listen to God, the clearer your steps become. The clearer your steps become, the less noise can distract you. Focus is a sign that power is stabilizing. This power does not rush into visibility. It walks into responsibility. God does not reveal influence before discipline. God does not release authority before humility. God does not expand reach before refining motive. You have passed tests you did not even know you were taking, and the result is a strength that does not need to announce itself. What is coming will not look dramatic at first, but it will be undeniable over time. People will say it appeared suddenly, but you will know it was built slowly, patiently, faithfully, with God watching every step, every decision, every surrender, you are carrying something ancient and new at the same time, rooted in eternal truth, expressed in a way the world has not encountered before. That is why comparison never fit you. That is why imitation never satisfied you. You were never meant to echo. You were meant to originate. The power inside you is waking up to your agreement, not to your effort, not to your perfection, but to your surrender. When you say yes to God fully, without conditions, without backup plans, without fear-based negotiations, the power flows freely. Resistance fades, doors align, timing accelerates. You are not here by accident. You are not breathing without reason. You are not surviving without purpose. God does not waste existence. And what God has placed inside you is evidence that something significant is meant to move through you, not for your glory, but for alignment with God's will. As you continue for war, do not seek to be seen, seek to be aligned. Do not seek to be praised, seek to be faithful. Do not seek to be powerful. Recognize that the power is already present. The world has never seen this power before because it required a vessel willing to trust God beyond comfort, beyond certainty, beyond control. And you are that vessel standing here, breathing, listening, awakening, carrying a power that has been waiting patiently for the moment you would finally believe what God has always known about you. There is a sacred moment when power stops being something you sense and starts becoming something you steward. God does not awaken strength just for awareness. God awakens it for responsibility. The moment you recognize what lives inside you, you are invited into a higher level of accountability. Not pressure, but precision. Not fear, but focus. Power without guidance destroys, but power submitted to God becomes unstoppable and pure. That is why God has been teaching you restraint before release, silence before sound, depth before display. Many think power looks like constant motion, but God's power often looks like stillness under pressure. When everything around you demands reaction, God teaches you response. Reaction is emotional, response is spiritual. Reaction leaks energy, response concentrates it. You have been learning how not to waste what you carry. Every time you chose silence over argument, patience over impulse, obedience over ego, the power inside you was being refined into something clean, sharp, and trustworthy. God never gives raw power to an unprepared vessel. God gives measured exposure, progressive authority, and gradual expansion. That is why you have experienced moments where opportunity appeared but did not last, where doors opened briefly and then closed again. Those were not failures, they were rehearsals. God was letting you feel the weight without yet carrying the full measure, letting you taste influence without being consumed by it, letting you see what is possible while shaping who you must become. The world confuses confidence with noise, but God builds confidence through alignment. When you are aligned with God, you do not need to exaggerate your presence. You do not need to announce your worth. You do not need to compete for space. Your presence settles things. Your words land with weight. Your decisions carry clarity. This is the kind of authority that does not need defense because it does not come from opinion, it comes from obedience. There is a spiritual intelligence growing within you, an ability to discern timing, to sense when to move and when to wait, when to speak and when to remain silent. This intelligence cannot be taught by people. It is learned through walking with God in uncertainty and choosing trust repeatedly. That is why your journey could not be rushed. Wisdom that carries power must be lived before it is spoken. God has been training you to recognize false urgency. The world rushes because it fears missing out. God waits because God controls outcomes. You are learning that not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every invitation is alignment. Not every open door leads forward. Discernment is part of your power. It protects you from wasting energy on what looks good but is not God. You will notice that as this power matures, your appetite changes. You crave substance over spectacle, truth over trends, depth over drama. This is not loss of passion. It is purification of focus. God is narrowing your attention so your impact can widen. When your focus sharpens, distractions lose their grip. There is also a healing dimension to this power. Not sentimental comfort, but stabilizing presence. When people encounter you, they feel grounded, even if they cannot explain why. Chaos quiets, fear slows, hope becomes thinkable again. This is because the power you carry carries peace. Not passive peace, but anchored peace. Peace that exists even when answers are incomplete. God has shown you pain, not to harden you, but to deepen your compassion without weakening your conviction. You can understand struggle without excusing it. You can offer grace without losing truth. This balance is rare. Many choose one side and lose the other. God has been forming both in you, so your influence does not distort reality, but restores clarity. The power inside you also carries endurance. You are not energized by quick wins, you are sustained by long obedience. When others burn out, you remain steady. When enthusiasm fades, your commitment remains. This endurance is not stubbornness, it is rootedness. God has anchored you so deeply that surface storms cannot uproot what has been planted in eternal soil. There will be seasons when your power is tested not by hardship, but by success. Success reveals motives faster than struggle. God has prepared you for that test as well. You have learned how to live without applause, so applause will not control you. You have learned how to walk without affirmation, so affirmation will not define you. This inner independence is protection. Do not be surprised when your path requires you to stand alone at times. Alignment often separates before it connects. God sometimes removes familiar voices so you can hear divine direction clearly. Isolation is not abandonment, it is recalibration. When God isolates, it is always to strengthen signal, not to punish presence. The world often misunderstands restraint as weakness, but restraint is power under control. God has taught you how to hold strength without releasing it prematurely. A restrained river carves mountains. Unrestrained force floods and destroys. You are being shaped into something that lasts. There will be moments when people project their fears onto you, their limitations onto your vision, their doubts onto your calling. Do not internalize what God never authored. Discernment means knowing which voices deserve attention and which must be ignored. God's voice brings clarity, not confusion. It may challenge you, but it will never contradict purpose. As this power becomes more visible, humility will become more essential. Humility is not self-denial, it is God-awareness. It keeps the source clear. It keeps gratitude active. It keeps alignment intact. Power that forgets its source begins to decay. Power that remembers God remains fresh. God is not preparing you for a single moment, but for sustained impact. Not a brief rise, but a lasting contribution. Not a reaction to the world, but a response that shapes it. That is why depth matters more than speed, and integrity matters more than recognition. You will also notice that your relationship with time is changing. You are less anxious about when, and more attentive to how. How you move, how you speak, how you decide. God is teaching you that timing is not something to chase, but something to honor. When alignment is right, timing follows. This power carries a prophetic sensitivity, not prediction, but perception. You can sense shifts before they fully manifest. You can feel when something is ending and when something new is forming. This awareness is not meant to create fear. It is meant to prepare you to move wisely. God has also trained you to forgive without forgetting lessons. Forgiveness frees your spirit. Wisdom guards your future. You are not naive and you are not bitter. You are discerning. That balance allows power to flow without distortion. As you move forward, remember that consistency will do what intensity cannot. Daily alignment, daily trust, daily obedience, these are the habits that sustain extraordinary power. God does not require perfection. God honors faithfulness. You are becoming someone who does not need certainty to move, only direction, not full clarity, only next steps. This is mature faith. This is how power remains flexible without losing strength. The world will eventually notice what has been quietly forming, but by then, you will no longer need validation. You will be too aligned to be distracted, too focused to be shaken, too grounded to be impressed by surface-level approval. God is not rushing you because God is establishing you. And what God establishes, no opposition can uproot. You are not carrying borrowed strength. You are carrying cultivated authority, a power the world has never seen before, not because it is loud, but because it is true, refined, and anchored in God alone. There is a moment ahead when you will realize that the power within you is not reactive, but directive. It does not wait for circumstances to decide its behavior. It shapes circumstances by alignment with God. This is the difference between surviving and governing. Survival asks, how do I endure this? Authority asks, what is God forming through this? You are being trained to ask the second question. That shift alone separates those who live under pressure from those who rise above it. God has been enlarging your inner capacity, so your outer influence does not outgrow your character. Many collapse not because they lack power, but because their inner life is too small to contain what arrives. God has protected you from that fate. You were stretched privately so you would not fracture publicly. Every season of endurance expanded your spiritual capacity, teaching you how to hold responsibility without resentment and influence without corruption. You may have noticed that chaos no longer excites you the way it once did. Drama no longer fuels you. Proving yourself no longer drives you. This is not fatigue, this is maturity. God has shifted your motivation from reaction to purpose. When purpose becomes your compass, noise loses its ability to control direction. The power you carry has an ordering effect. Disorder weakens around it. Confusion thins out. Clarity increases. This is because God is a God of order, and alignment with God naturally restores what has been misaligned. You do not have to force correction. Your presence invites recalibration. That is why some people resist you without reason. Disorder always resists order. God has also been teaching you patience that is not passive. Waiting does not mean inactivity. It means preparation without panic. While others rush to be seen, you have been learning how to be ready. Readiness is invisible until the moment it matters. When that moment arrives, what God has built in you will respond without hesitation. This power has trained you to value obedience over outcome. Obedience keeps you flexible. Outcomes can make you rigid. When you are outcome-driven, disappointment can derail you. When you are obedience-centered, even disappointment becomes instruction. God has been anchoring you to obedience, so nothing, success or failure, can steal your alignment. There is also a truth God has been engraving into your spirit. You do not need to control everything to move effectively. Control is rooted in fear. Trust is rooted in faith. As trust deepens, control loosens, and power flows more freely. You have felt this shift. Situations that once made you anxious now make you attentive. Instead of panicking, you listen. Instead of forcing, you observe. This is power, learning how to breathe. You're being shaped into someone who can hold paradox without losing balance. You can be confident and teachable, strong and gentle, decisive and patient. These combinations confuse the world because they do not fit simple categories. But God often works in paradox because truth is rarely one-dimensional. The power inside you also carries responsibility for stewardship. Not everything you sense must be spoken. Not everything you know must be revealed. Discernment teaches you timing. God trusts you with insight because you have learned restraint. Insight without restraint becomes arrogance. Insight with restraint becomes wisdom. You may feel at times that your progress is hidden, that your growth is unseen. But roots grow unseen by design. Visibility too early can stunt depth. God hides what God values until it is strong enough to withstand exposure. What feels like obscurity is often protection. As this power continues to unfold, you will find that your confidence no longer comes from certainty, but from relationship with God. You do not need all the answers to move forward. You need alignment. When alignment is present, clarity unfolds step by step. God rarely reveals the entire path at once, not to withhold, but to keep you close. You are also learning that rest is not weakness. Rest is trust in motion. When you rest, you declare that God is at work even when you are still. This posture protects your strength from exhaustion and your spirit from bitterness. Power that cannot rest eventually burns itself out. God is teaching you how to sustain what you carry. There will be times when your restraint will be misunderstood as hesitation. Your silence will be mistaken for agreement. Your patience will be seen as passivity. Let misunderstanding happen. Explanation is not always required. Alignment does not need constant clarification. Those who are meant to understand will, and those who are not would not be convinced anyway. The power you carry also refines how you respond to injustice. You are not indifferent, but you are not reckless. You do not react from anger. You respond from conviction. God has taught you how to stand firmly without losing composure. That steadiness gives your actions weight and your words credibility. You will notice that as this power matures, your circle becomes smaller but stronger. Alignment narrows connection. Not everyone can walk with someone who carries responsibility. This is not loss, it is refinement. God removes noise so focus can deepen. There is a spiritual authority in you that does not argue for its place. It takes its place naturally. When alignment is present, authority does not need permission. It operates quietly, confidently, and consistently. God has been training you to trust that authority without abusing it. Your past no longer defines you, but it informs you. God does not erase history, God redeems it. What you endured has given you insight others lack. That insight allows you to move with compassion without being controlled by emotion. This balance makes your power safe for others. You are becoming someone who can handle responsibility without becoming heavy. Joy remains intact. Curiosity remains alive. Gratitude remains active. These are signs that power is flowing correctly. God never intended strength to harden the soul. As you continue, remember that the goal is not to be extraordinary in the eyes of people, but faithful in the sight of God. Faithfulness multiplies impact in ways recognition never could. God measures success differently than the world does. You are stepping into a phase where consistency will speak louder than intensity. Small, aligned actions repeated daily will produce results that dramatic moments never could. This is how lasting influence is built. The power within you is no longer forming in silence alone. It is beginning to express itself through wisdom, through presence, through decisions that carry weight. And as it continues to emerge, it will do so without spectacle, but with undeniable effect, because it is rooted not in self, not in ambition, not in comparison, but in alignment with God, steady, enduring, and prepared to move through you exactly as God intended.